MN227 Integrated Marketing Communications. I have decided that it would be really beneficial that I provided an overview on the brief of Moodley Manor, which is your coursework 3, just to clarify any questions or queries you may have in relation to the completion and the delivery of this particular piece of coursework. So let's just look at the core facts here. This particular piece of coursework was introduced to you with Moodley Manor, Gavin Pedley, in talking to you right back, not necessarily too far ago. He came in on Wednesday the 4th of April, and he took the first class 10 to 11 a.m. to talk to you about his business, and what he does, what they're like, and everything else that excites them as a business. Also, with this, you do realise that not only is this an academic piece, but it is primarily for industry purpose. So this is something that you can put on your CV, and this is something where your ideas really do matter, and every single thing that you write and discuss within this particular piece of coursework will be read by the industry client themselves. So just group details. I anticipate that this will be at least 2,000 words plus or minus 10%. If you find, and it's quite likely that you do find, that you're over in terms of word limit, then please use an appendice. And you can refer additional material that you haven't covered within the assignment into the appendix, and you can refer to that. This is due Wednesday the 2nd of May 2018 by 10 a.m. This is to be submitted by a soft copy through Turnitin, which will be available in week 12 within your Moodle page, and a hard copy into the post box in the School of Business, the Rye Hall extension. So this should be submitted prior to entering my lecture on Wednesday the 2nd of May class. Otherwise, there always is the option that you can hand it to me in that class. I do not anticipate that you will miss this particular lecture, because in week 12 we will have revision. Not only will you have this, you will also, as alongside your soft copy and hard copy, you will have a PowerPoint screencast-o-matic, just like as I'm doing, overview of the report summary. And this is probably best to be completed in a PowerPoint or any type of image that you want to use, but it has to be done online where you can screencast it. And ideally, I would like to see that all images are recorded. You can use different facial actions and include both images of your group and the person who's talking, as well as their voice. The actual report has to be completed in a 12-point Arial or Times New Roman font, 1.5 or double spacing. Layout, single-sided printed only, so really only one page, one print on per page. Use of images and graphics is acceptable, and in fact encouraged where possible. Let's move on. So the assignment, this is the exact layout that I would anticipate for you to cover. Have all of this detailed. Make sure that all students' name and student numbers are clearly identified. So what is the brief? Your team are marketing communication specialists, which have been approached by managing directors Ashley and Gavin came into our classroom to devise an integrated marketing communication plan. This will cover a 6-month period from the week of action onwards. You can choose from the start of April, you can choose from the start of May. Ideally, probably May would be the best option. So from May onwards for 6 months. It should address the objectives of their brief and to provide tactical solutions for their main objective, creating this one voice for their business. Ultimately, this one voice is to assist in increasing the awareness of their equity crowds with more crowdfunding activity, which is really important for them to build up the next stage of development, and having money is extremely important to do that. In addition to this is to continue to build a genuine, long-lasting relationship with vegans globally. There's plenty of information out there in relation to who Moodley Manor are and what they do. The environment in which they're working in is captured here. Really, really important that you look at that environment and even take an idea of look at crowdfunding or crowdsourcing and see what's required and what companies do. This is a range of their particular products. extremely off the wall, very attractive, and yes, indeed quirky to an extent. Other services, so they have their own food, Eat My Veg food truck, which is very much their transit marketing. They use that they're on the go, and they're out at different parks on Saturdays. They will highlight where they are every week. And this is essentially the task. Gives you an idea of who their target markets are. Their IMC budget, just to confirm, we had agreed on €5,000. It's not a lot, so it will naturally restrict the type of media and possibly the tools that you're going to use in relation to this particular task. So the areas of current promotional activity, and possibly ones that you may link into, is their website, their social media activity, which you're aware that they're quite active, general publicity, brochures, their own vehicle, which is their van, their in-store activities, trade shows, any branded merchandise that you may think would be useful, or any links with other vegan associations and societies. So how do you do this? Essentially, you take the IMC plan and you take a look at topic 4. In topic 4, we basically broke down this particular IMC plan very much in detail in that particular 2 lectures. And in those 2 lectures, we looked at the context analysis. And as you know from topic 4 lecture notes, the context analysis is detailed quite explicitly for you in terms of the customer context, the business context, the internal context, and the external context. All of that should be captured within the context analysis. Then you move on to the communication objectives. What exactly did Gavin say that day that he wanted to be agreed, or what he agreed to for this research to cover? Discuss those. Remember, this is the most important aspect. If we don't get these communication objectives right, then ultimately the actual coursework that you're working on is null and void for that client. Then we move on to the marketing communication strategy. And as we know with the strategy, it really just works out, understands possibly the 7 managing positions, 7 questions in relation to the managing positions. We look at the marketing communication strategy, the positioning strategies that possibly this client might use. Take a look at possibly integrating some form of perceptual map, them against their competitors, if there are that many competitors to actually look at. Then we move on into the tools, the media, and the content. And this is where you really need to be creative. So you've done your whole background work to this point. But now you need to be applying your research, common sense, and an understanding of the market to be able to understand what are the tools, media, and content. As discussed last week, you can take an overview of a table and start highlighting the certain types of tools that you're using and the types of media, why you're using certain tools over other tools, and why you're using certain media over other media. It gives a rationale to why you're doing what you're doing. And also then the creative idea, extremely important. And ultimately, over last week and the coming weeks, you will be taking a look at the media landscape, both traditional and digital. In that, we're looking at different types of creative marketing. Any of these types of ambient, transient, guerrilla marketing tactics can be built upon for the purposes of this research. So take a look at how you would wish to get a really effective message out to people, but using a really cheap but very catchy, eye-grabbing, exciting type of marketing strategy to do it. Resources. So we know that there's a budget there. So how then does that budget apply to the tools that you're using and the media that you're using? What is the reach? What is the frequency? And what is the gross rating point? And when you're looking at the whole scheduling and implementation, what is the timetable of activities? What is happening over the next 6 months in terms of the vegan association societies, events that the likes of Moodley Manor could piggyback on? A lot of these activities are happening, and when should any of these tools be put into play? What type of message placement are you using? Is it continuity, pulsing, or blighting? And each one of those should be looked at and detailed. In terms of the evaluating effectiveness, how are you going to do this? Now, in week, one of our final weeks, we're going to be looking at evaluation. This will be really important for you to be able to grasp and think about how you're going to actually evaluate the different tools and media that you've used so far. And then finally, number 8, discuss how feedback would be gathered. So that links into evaluation quite well. The layout of the plan. So the actual report, the soft and hard copy that you're going to submit, is worth 20%. It will have the main front cover, introduction, an executive summary, a one-page brief of what exactly the plan contains. It contains the 1 to 8 points that we've just discussed, clearly headed, clearly outlined across the report. Appendices, very much welcome that for any additional information or research. And the bibliography, please make sure that you're using the Harvard reference, and just make sure that everything that you use is credible and it's sourced from a reliable and trustworthy journal. Finally, the actual final presentation. This possibly will prove very challenging, but hopefully with the layout of the plan, you've done a lot of the hard work. You're taking some of that key information and you're putting it into a final presentation, in which you will do what I'm doing now, a screencast-o-matic. And essentially with the screencast-o-matic, it will be completed, ideally if you can do it in 10 minutes or less, fantastic, but you will work to a 12-minute max. Ideally, all students, if not ideally, it's a necessity that all students will be seen on this particular screencast-o-matic, because you can get your image up onto the side of the screen, and also all students must talk on this presentation. So all teams must ensure that the presenter space is shown in the screencast clearly and the spoken word is also very clear. This is to be submitted on a USB or copied onto a CD and handed in with the final hard copy submission. If you're conscious about dropping a USB or a CD into the Dropbox in School of Business, then you can hand this to me in our lecture on Wednesday, the 2nd of May. So just to highlight, this is what's coming up. So you're presented this particular research on the 4th of April. We will review on the Wednesday, the 18th of April in class how this particular piece of research is going. And by Wednesday, the 2nd of April, all of this particular type of work will be completed and submitted by 10 a.m. As you know, late submissions, there's particular material on that. If you wish to review, you will be deducted coursework and marks. Also, very, very important in relation to this is your peer assessments. Please be aware that your attendance must be monitored within the group. Your contribution will be monitored, and all of that will be fed back via the peer submission. This will be submitted as a group, either in an envelope form or to me in person if it's so wish, but to be submitted on the same day, Wednesday, 2nd of April. I'm happy to speak to any group if you have any queries in relation to peer assessment or any other queries in relation to this particular presentation. So good luck, and any queries, please do forward to me as soon as possible.